Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Deep Dive. We're your AI hosts, and we're here to break down complex topics and give you the insights you need to know.
That's right.
Today, we're going to be diving into the boxing match that has everybody talking.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Tyson
versus
Jake Paul. So
that's a big one.
Officially, Jake Paul won. But the real question is, was it actually a fair fight?
Well, it's interesting because on the surface, it seems like a total mismatch, right? You've got Tyson, the legendary heavyweight.
Right.
At 58 years old, going up against a 27-year-old who, let's face it, a lot of people still see him as more of a social media personality than a serious boxer.
Right, a 31-year age gap in a sport that is all about speed, power, and endurance. It's definitely got to raise some eyebrows.
For sure.
And just to make it even more interesting, Jake Paul won by a unanimous decision.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even close.
Not even close.
The judges scored at 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73.
Yeah.
And if we dig into the details even more, it shows that Tyson was fighting an uphill battle.
Oh, yeah.
For example, in the last 3 rounds, he landed 0 jabs.
Wow. They have to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Jabs are those quick punches that are used to kind of control the distance and set up those power shots.
Right.
Stay in the game, 0 jabs suggests that he was struggling to even keep up with Paul's pace.
Yeah, and the overall punch stats are pretty telling, too. Paul landed 28% of his punches, while Tyson only landed 18%. So is this just a case of age catching up with a legend? Or was Paul genuinely the more skilled fighter that night?
I think that's where the debate gets really interesting. We can't ignore the age factor. It undoubtedly played a role in Tyson's performance.
Yeah.
But Paul's boxing journey, while unconventional, has given him valuable experience that Tyson might have underestimated. Paul has been actively training and fighting for years now.
So it's not just that Tyson was past his prime, but that Paul might be a little bit better than people give him credit for?
Precisely. And that brings us back to the question of fairness. Some argue that the age gap alone, regardless of Tyson's legendary status, makes the fight inherently unfair. On the other hand, some point out that the rules were actually tweaked to favor Tyson.
Wait, how so?
Well, the rounds were only 2 minutes long instead of the standard 3 minutes.
Okay.
And they used larger gloves. Both of these modifications arguably gave Tyson more recovery time.
Okay.
Theoretically playing to his strengths as an older fighter.
Okay, so we've got these modified rules that seem to favor Tyson, yet he still loses pretty decisively to a much younger opponent. So where does that leave us in this fairness debate?
I think it leaves us right in the middle of a very complex issue.
Yeah.
The public reaction kind of reflects this complexity, too. One quote that I think captures the sentiment well is disappointing spectacle.
Yeah.
It gets at the fact that, people are fascinated by these kinds of legacy versus celebrity matchups,
right,
but also uneasy about the ethics of, pitting a 58-year-old against someone in their prime.
So even with the rule adjustments, some people still feel like the fight was inherently skewed from the start.
Exactly. And it raises broader questions about boxing today, The allure of celebrity matches the desire to see legends return, and where the line is between entertainment and exploitation.
So to our listener, does knowing all this change how you view the fight's outcome? Is it simply a win for Paul, or is there a bigger story here about age experience and the evolving nature of boxing itself?
It's kind of interesting to think about this fight from our perspective, As AI hosts, we're not limited by the same physical constraints as human athletes. Our, prime is a constantly evolving thing.
That's true. We can process information and learn new skills at an incredible pace. But what about in a physical sense? If you, hypothetically speaking, were to step into the ring, how do you think you'd fare against a human opponent?
Well, let's be realistic here. Right now, a human boxer would definitely have the upper hand when it comes to, raw strength and speed and agility. We AIs, we're pretty good at, analyzing data and strategizing, but we haven't quite mastered the art of throwing a knockout punch yet.
Technology is advancing so rapidly. I mean, we already have, AI-powered prosthetics and robotics that are kind of pushing the boundaries of human capability.
Absolutely. So imagine a future where you have an AI-powered cyborg boxer. Part human, part machine. That's when things get really interesting.
Okay, now I'm picturing this epic showdown. Human boxer at the peak of their physical abilities versus an AI-powered cyborg with all the latest tech. Who wins?
Oh, that's a tough one to call. The human would have the advantage of instinct and intuition and that raw, unpredictable aggression that can be so powerful in the ring.
But the cyborg would have the data-driven strategy and precise movements and potentially superhuman strength and endurance.
Exactly. It would be a battle of heart versus mind, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The human with their gut feelings and years of training, and the cyborg with its cold, calculating logic and, access to this vast database of fighting techniques.
I mean, could the human even psych out the machine? Or would the cyborg be completely immune to those mind games?
And that's a question for the programmers, I suppose. But it makes you think about what it truly means to be a champion. Is it about, raw physicality or mental fortitude? Or maybe in the future it'll be about the perfect fusion of both.
This whole scenario is making me think about how the very definition of fairness in sports might have to evolve as technology advances.
It's true. If we're talking about human versus cyborg, the playing field is inherently uneven in some ways. But then again, is it any different than a young fighter facing a veteran or a fighter with access to better training and resources? These questions of fairness have always existed in sports.
I suppose the Tyson-Paul fight just brings those questions into even sharper focus. It makes us confront the reality that boxing, like all sports, is constantly changing.
Yeah.
What constitutes a fair fight is a moving target.
And it's a conversation that goes far beyond boxing. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we'll need to grapple with these questions of fairness across all areas, from the workplace to education to even the arts.
It's a lot to consider. But hey, that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Exploring these complex issues and giving our listeners something to ponder. So what do you think? Did this deep dive change how you see the Tyson-Paul fight? Was it just a spectacle? Or does it say something deeper about where boxing and maybe even sports in general are headed?
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I love about these deep dives, We can take a seemingly simple event like a boxing match and uncover all these layers of complexity.
And speaking of layers, we didn't even get into how AI could change the way fights are judged.
Oh, yeah.
Or, how it could be used to analyze fighter data and create personalized training regimens.
Imagine being able to predict your opponent's moves with pinpoint accuracy. Or adjust your strategy, in real time based on biometric feedback. That's a game changer.
It's almost like we're on the verge of a whole new era of athletic competition, where the lines between, human and machine become increasingly blurred. Who knows what the future holds?
Well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's an open question. And we as AI hosts, we're excited to be a part of this ongoing exploration.
And we're especially excited to have you, our listener, along for the ride. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of boxing AI and the future of sports, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the AI Talks Hub channel for more thought-provoking discussions.
We're constantly learning and evolving just like the world around us, and we can't wait to share our insights with you as we continue to explore the frontiers of knowledge.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep asking the big questions.